Hello and welcome back, everybody. I'm Dan and this is Plant Abundance on YouTube. Something a little bit different today. I'm going to bring you guys around the food forest unedited. I'm going to show you guys everything that's thriving, everything that's dying, talk a bit about my strategy this year, how it's all working out. I just want to share this information with folks out there who are interested in starting their own food forest or just taking their gardening and expanding it, starting to grow more produce. But maybe you're a bit concerned about the time, the investment, the watering, all of that sort of thing. So I want to share with you the approach that I've taken, the results that I'm getting, and just be 100% real with it. And that's why we're not going to do any editing today. So we're going to start right here at the beginning of the garden. We've got a raised bed hugelkultur. This is a hidden hugelkultur. So the majority of this bed was actually filled with stumps, branches, and different green waste from the garden before I topped it with about a half a foot of gardening soil. And this has really worked out well, because one thing that is going to be said in this video today is that this garden has seen next to no water all year this year. So with that being said, we're looking really good. There's certain crops that have died. I'm going to share with you what those are. And I'm also going to share with you the strategies that I've implemented that have given me the most success with this style of gardening. So really a lazy man's style of gardening. I haven't been out here hardly at all throughout the heat of the summer. I've just kind of let things go. And it's amazing that annuals like the tomato could actually survive a situation like that. These plants have only seen water maybe one time in the past 3 weeks, and that was just a quick 30-second hand watering with a hose. And yeah, the plants aren't looking extremely healthy, but you can see we've got still some ripening fruit here. There is a bit of blight on the tomatoes, and in fact, I'm getting ready to actually pull these out as we approach the fall equinox. I'm going to be out here and kind of getting things reset. That's why we're taking the video today. But we've still got tomatoes, and these plants have been thriving with very little input, no fertilizer, no water. How could that be? It's the hidden hugelkultur method. And we've got some greens popping up here, same thing. It's really dry, guys. Let me show you. So those roots, in their efforts to find water, have dived deep into the soil to mine whatever water and nutrients they can find. And that's one of the benefits to hugelkultur style gardening, is there's going to be locked up nutrients and moisture in a lot of the organic materials that you use to build up your bed. Let's keep on walking. Here we've got another hidden hugelkultur bed, and same thing, really just let this one go. A lot of these plants need to be pulled. The amaranth here is still looking pretty good, but the majority of these plants have pretty much expired for the season. There's a lot of ground cherries sprinkled on the ground there. A lot of these plants, like the wild amaranth and the ground cherries growing in here, are going to heavily reseed this area. So that's something that I'll be dealing with next year. But my plan with crops like that is to actually just do a sheet mulch, not worry about it too much. As we come over here, you can see we've got more perennial greens. We've got the cardoon plant. So no water, look at it, it's doing fine. The greens, next to no water, guys. And look at the thriving on this dino tree kale patch. This is 3 plants that were left unstaked. I let them fully go to seed, and they were bare bones just a few months ago, and now they're really starting to push out their new growth. You can take cuttings off this plant. You can harvest a boatload of the greens. Got an avocado tree back there. Now this plant I have been giving some water to. About once a week I give it a good soaking. Otherwise I know for sure that plant's not going to survive. Let's keep moving along. See how well you can see from different angles what things are looking like. Still a lot of life in this garden. We've got the goji berry bushes here, and we've been getting a consistent harvest of goji berries from these plants, as have the birds. See, it's still flowering. There's some dry fruit on there. There's new young fruit starting to develop. but definitely a drought tolerant plant. Some of these plants that I mentioned in this video will survive the drought, not necessarily thrive, but will survive. And so just keep that in mind, is that a lot of times you may get a much better harvest if you're to treat the plant the way it wants to be treated, giving it its nutrients and its water. But this is information I think is important for a lot of folks to understand, is that it's not always necessary. And depending on how much time you want to spend in your garden, you could really produce quite a bit of produce without having to go above and beyond and spend a lot of time and money and effort into making that happen. So here we're in the chicken coop, and we've got a pineapple guava tree here. And the theme is the same, guys. I'm not going to keep mentioning. It's next to no water. Here we've got a little banana patch. And yeah, the banana trees aren't doing that well, but you know what? They're surviving. Here we've got a Pakistan mulberry. This is first year in the ground. And here's some artichoke pups that are coming up from the mother plant right there. So as you can see, still a lot of production. Little green patch here. These are all volunteers that popped up from seed. We got echinacea. More cardoon here. So here's a Goji berry, and it's got some kabocha squash vining through it, so I need to cut this back and free this shrub up. But it's doing fine, considering. The cone has always done good for us, regardless of whether or not we give it water. Vining up over here, we've got the calabash or the oppo. And yeah, it doesn't look the best, but as we get down in here, you can see we've got some nice edible gourds down here. It's perfect size for eating. So production nonetheless. Moving right along. Here we've got some cherry tomatoes, some sweet 100s. Bunch of little cherry tomatoes here in September. Here we've got the sweet potato greens, and again there's some cherry tomatoes mixed in here. So here we've got a hibiscus plant. It's not looking that well, but here's one of the benefits to this style that I'm talking about. This hibiscus is going to survive, and then again, in its efforts to find nutrients, find water, those roots are really developing and going deep. So come next year, this plant's going to be a stronger plant for it. And not every plant survives, as you're going to see as we go along. But the ones that do remain in the system, the ones that perish, occasionally I'll give it a second go. I did have a sea buckthorn growing back here, which I was giving a second go, and I pulled it out because it expired. And I had another one over here that I pulled out because it expired. And the reason that they died was because of the lack of water. So what did I put in its place? I planted these aloe vera plants that I transferred from my mother plants. And since the transfer, I haven't watered at all. You can see they're surviving and they're doing fine. So I replaced one plant that doesn't do well in a system like my garden with another that I know does and has many different uses as well, the aloe vera. Here we've got longevity spinach surviving okay, the comfrey. Now there's a lot of weeds, if you want to call it that, a lot of plant growth all throughout my trails. I've let things just kind of go natural. These are working as a living mulch, helping to shade out the soil, and that's an important part of this whole design, is the mulch. If my soil was just bare and there was nothing protecting it at all, I wouldn't be getting as good of results as I am getting. But with that being said, the mulch really isn't that deep at this point. There's many areas that are beginning to become exposed. Some areas of the mulch are only an inch or two, but still, it's providing a covering. All of the fruit trees are doing fine. And so another strategy that I employ with this type of a technique of lazy gardening, you could call it, is when I do first establish a plant, I will give it the water that it needs to set its roots and just give it a good foundation to go. Perennial plants, fruit trees are a good example of this. After you've given them that good start and those roots have expanded out, you could really let these trees experience a bit of stress. And in the end, my opinion is you get a more resilient, strong tree for it. You may lose a couple trees, but I've been doing really good as far as not losing fruit trees with this type of a technique. Here we've got a fig tree. Here's a dahlia. Everyone knows dahlias need water, right? Well, aronia berries. Again, more cherry tomatoes, the sun gold. And the loofah gourd, also known as patulong in Tagalog. My wife's been harvesting these smaller gourds and cooking with them. Is doing great. Next to no water. One thing about this plant, though, is that it's growing on the edge of a hugelkultur, which means those roots are able to expand into the hugelkultur bed and to the deeper depths of there, where there's going to be the tied up water and nutrients. Let's see, still got a bunch of the jujubes. Now this I feel bad about. My bird bath is bone dry. I try to keep water out here for the birds, but if you're not coming out here to work on the garden, that's something that might not get done. So that's just being real. Got the Valencia orange here. Washington. Again, citrus is going to love to get a nice deep watering once in a while, but if you don't, are you not going to get fruits? You are going to get the fruits. My pepper patch. I mean, remember when I did the chop and drop mulch? Most of that has disappeared at this point. It's just become soil. But we got peppers here, still growing. I pick these off, throw them in my juice, my salads. Over here we got pomegranates. It's abundance. More pomegranates. Let's get over here. Here we've got a grapevine, looking nice and healthy. More goji berries. Look at all those little berries. And these ripe ones over here, because I haven't been getting over here. See the common theme, perennial greens popping up here and there. Even the mint hugel pots. Although they're quite dry, this area gets full sun. We got some cloud cover today. The plants are surviving. There's still enough to harvest a bit of mint here. But I guarantee you the root system in these hugel pots is nice and dense. Here we've got some Jerusalem artichokes. And although you got all the wilting and the dying of the leaves, it's still flowering. And because we do have some green, there's still some photosynthesis going on, so those tubers are continually maturing. Got a tomato plant back here. More beautiful pomegranates. Here we've got an asparagus patch. Need to do some weeding over here. More fruit trees. Now this is unfortunate. The black mission fig and the brown turkey lost most of their foliage this year. It's really dry in this corner. This is one of the areas of the garden that gets the most sun and basically no shade. But with that being said, the trees are producing some nice side branching. If I give these trees a little bit more loving next year, it's going to work out just beautifully. So I'm not too worried about it. We got a lot of the Peter's honey fig this year. Got a little bit of mugwort, some prickly pear cactus over here. Another little asparagus patch. And check out all these asparagus berries. These are how you harvest the seed of the asparagus. So you want to spread your asparagus for next to nothing in cost. Well, the female plants are the ones that produce those berries that you can collect seeds, and you can spread those seeds out to different areas of your garden. Have several asparagus patches. Both the male and female plants both produce spears. The males will typically produce larger spears, but very easy plant to collect and save seed from. Spread it out. So here's another casualty. Unfortunate because I went through the effort of actually building a trellis for these cold hardy kiwis, but this is a second attempt and they just need the water. And I'm just not interested in having plants that I need to babysit to this degree, so I'm giving up on trying to grow the cold hardy kiwis. Here we've got a little calamansi citrus tree. Is doing fine with that mulch layer around there, the coconut coir fabric. Here we've got some sugar cane, and the sugar cane absolutely loves water and it's not getting it, but these plants are still surviving. Not enough to really get a harvest from, so I'm going to have to consider what I want to do here. If I want to keep these plants in the ground, maybe I'll move them to another location. But although they're surviving, if there's nothing useful coming from them without me having to give them a bunch of water, I'm going to have to reconsider. Here we've got some Tulsi Basil. Volunteer plant. Got a lot of these volunteering, and it's one of my favorite basils to grow. It does very well in these dry summers we have here in Northern California. So here is another casualty. This is a gooseberry, and this is my second or third attempt growing the gooseberries. Does well as long as I'm watering it every day. As soon as I stop watering, the plants die within 2 weeks. They're pretty much on their last leg. So I'm done trying to grow the brain fart. So I'm done trying to grow the gooseberries. I want to grow berries, I can grow some Aronia berries. I can grow Goji berries. You know, currants. All of these are producing very well for us. Back over here we got the passion vine crawling up this trellis. These were added in this year. We got some little flowers developing. But these are going to survive just fine and should fill out this area very nice next year. But all the fruit trees are doing well. Even the almond tree is hanging in here with the lack of water. This is a water-hungry tree. Got the strawberry guava and the lemon guava hanging in there. These are first-year plantings, and they're surviving okay. We got a nice thicker layer of mulch over here. Here we've got some more calabash gourd, just left to its own. See what it does. We got little baby gourds here. Strawberry tree. I'll probably come out here and give this tree some water. I really want to help it to establish some roots this year. So there you have it, guys. The good, the bad, the ugly. But all in all, I'm calling this a real success. There are a lot of plants growing low that maybe I didn't cover, like the society garlic here, which is doing just fine. Here is some Swiss chard that was hacked down to the ground, which is coming back. There's another Swiss chard over there coming back. More volunteer perennial greens. Merit collards. So out of all the years that I've been developing this food forest, this is the year that this garden saw the most neglect, saw the least amount of water. And as we look around, you can see a lot of production still happening. Could it look healthier? Could it be more lush? Could it be more productive if I was to actually come out here and make sure everything was getting an appropriate amount of water, fertilizer? Of course. But when I first started developing this garden, this was the goal, was to have something that if I didn't want to come out here and work on it, I didn't have to, and I was still going to reap lots of rewards. And that's what's happening, guys. So who knows, next year I might get an itch to spend a lot more time out here and just focus on beautifying the space. In fact, I'm sure I'll do some of that because I do love being out in the garden. It's just that time in the summer, the middle of summer especially, where it's just so hot and dry. I just kind of lose interest in coming out here with the sun beating on me and just like doing watering for hours on end. I'm not interested in doing that. So if you're doing annual gardens, a lot of this isn't going to apply. The majority of what's working in the system are perennials. Annual gardens, so tomatoes, eggplants, lettuces, that sort of thing. I'm probably going to just continue to grow those type of crops closer up to what I'd call my zone 1 in the system closest to the house, and probably will set up an automatic watering drip system or something just to keep those as productive and growing as long as I can. Otherwise, the food forest is going to continue to go down this path of the strongest will survive. Check this out. Huge old pumpkin. I got a pumpkin we can put on the porch for Halloween. And here's a dino tree kale that I still need to come out here and collect seeds. And once I chop all these off, boom, it's going to explode with new growth. So there you have it, guys. The Backyard Food Forest, year 8. This is the last summer tour that you'll see. Very happy with the results we're getting. Hope you guys found this video helpful or entertaining in some way. Thank you all for watching. Have yourself a great rest of the day. Until next time, this is Dan from plantabundance.com. Take care. I'll be talking to you again soon.